Hey, everybody, we are live on LinkedIn, and I am glad that you arrived. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Anthony Melchiori. And Anthony, it is Feel Good Friday. So I just want to say we've got one life, so let's blaze on. How are you doing on Feel Good Friday?
Okay, my friend. As you can see, I'm wearing my New York shirt.
That's quite the
You're a
pregnant
Yankee
pause
fan.
there. I am not a Yankees fan.
I'm a New York fan.
Yeah.
So I'm a Met fan and a Yankee fan, but I just want to wear my New York shirt just because a lot of people have been sending New York some love this morning, sending my phone a lot of text, asking how we're doing, doing as good as we can, just like everybody else, and just thought I'd wear my New York shirt. So
awesome.
We have quite a show today.
Quite a show today, and as you guys can see, we're trying to up our game a little bit. Next week, Anthony, I think we're going to be introducing some really cool graphics and stuff like that. I'm working on that for our daily show. But first, I want to bring in two guys here. Hold on. I shouldn't have spoken too long. Boom. All right. Big old welcome to Richard Castle and Adam Harris of Cloudbreads. But they've created hospitalityhelps.org, which is helping connect healthcare and government agencies with lodging providers ready to supply beds in this time of needs. Guys, thanks for helping out our community, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Glenn.
So tell us real quick about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, last Friday, I was just sitting on the sofa watching, I think I was watching MSNBC, and there was this kind of like growing need for shelter in this COVID crisis. And there was this kind of plea. She like looked out and was just like saying, basically, what are you going to do, or what can we do to help this crisis? And I was sitting on the sofa with my wife, and Adam always says it's like a meteor hit our industry, in the hotel industry, overnight. And we've got thousands of customers at very low, almost 0% occupancy in many cases. And we were thinking, what can we do to connect those low occupancy properties with healthcare facilities or agencies that need beds? Yep. And this launched a sort of overnight 48-hour effort with our team at Cloudbeds to spin up some initiative to try to, raise a call to action in the industry to provide beds to healthcare agencies. And that was something for us to give our team purpose. What are we going to do? Like normal product releases don't mean anything right now. So this was our way of giving back and trying to do something.
So Adam, how does it work?
Pretty simple. We went around the country and tried to reach out to as many hotel brands as well as independents as we possibly could. In the meantime, we have a team of 50 internally at Cloudbeds that are manning phones, working with live chat, working on email, and responding to healthcare providers around the country as well as government officials, and trying to match up properties that are willing and eager to help with the situation. And then as of recently, we created a 501c3 independent entity so we can move this away from Cloudbeds and make it more about the industry. And Sabre, RateGain, SHR, Marriott, Hilton, Shiji, and others have now joined forces with us to make this an initiative that will last forever.
Excellent. That's terrific. So how can people find you? Just go to hospitalityhelps.org. Is that correct?
Yep. That's correct.
Excellent. Anthony? Look, Anthony's gone. I guess you know what Anthony's doing. He's going right now to hospitalityhelps.org in order to make sure
he's physically going there,
matching up to get folks some help. Guys, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it. And all you hoteliers out there, go to hospitalityhelps.org right now. It might be able to help you. And thank you, guys. And we will see you soon. I hope you have some good luck with this project. It's pretty awesome. And let's bring in now Keith Kefgen. How are you, sir?
Doing well.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me.
So Keith Kefgen is, of course, with Ethos, and wanted to talk a little to you about servant leadership today, right? And the whole idea of giving back. And you're going through a lot right now, but it's a Feel Good Friday. How are you trying to create a clear path for the future when you're thinking about what's going on in your business and what people in general should be thinking about?
Yeah, well, for the viewership, I had an executive search practice that specializes in the hospitality industry. Most of that work is at VP levels and above. And I would say certainly there's a lot of those folks that have been laid off in some of this furloughing. But at the same time, the people really hurting, I think, are the line level and early management folks in our business. So I'm doing fine. Our people are doing well, at least my partners, but we're going through the same problems everyone else is. Our industry shut down. In a sense, we're shut down. And we've been really contemplating what our business looks like moving forward. And that's what I would counsel every individual is how to look at yourself. What do you have to offer moving forward? But at the end of the day, this is a people business. And I know that because I talk to my real estate friends every day. And you could walk down Fifth Avenue today, walk past Trump Tower, all the way to the Plaza Hotel, and find without people in those buildings are worth about that much. They're worth nothing. So I know that the most important thing is the people in our industry and the people that frequent our businesses. And those are the people that we have to be thinking about and protecting.
That's right. Anthony, welcome back, man. Good to see you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it seems like every time we have 4 people on, my Wi-Fi doesn't handle it. So
or maybe my ego can't handle it, and I got to kick you off the show.
We're upgrading it today. But yeah, Keith, I think that's exactly right. And I have a lot of friends in real estate, a lot of lawyers in real estate, and they're concerned. And the quicker we open, the quicker people are traveling, the quicker people coming back to New York. And that's why I'm wearing my New York shirt today, because I want people to know New York is going to come back. And we're suffering like everyone else, but it's going to come back, and it has to come back. But how do you rethink your business? How do you think about hospitality? You know, I feel bad, honestly, for the seniors graduating hospitality school, and they're like, now what do I do? You know, it's like I had everything, whether it be food and beverage, sales, marketing, design, it was all going to be in hospitality. And now what do I do? So people like you, people like me and Glenn and other people, we're kind of struggling with the same questions. However, I do see a light in the end of the rainbow, and at the end of the tunnel, and it will come back. It has to come back because, as I've said all week, this country goes the way hospitality goes. You cannot have a strong economy and a strong nation if we don't have a strong service industry.
That's absolutely true. I mean, better than 50% of our economy runs through service industries. We all know that. Without travel, without the things that we do in our space, this country wouldn't be this country. So again, I continue to want my people, and the message to get out is, what can we do to help people in this time of need? I know that there's been a lot of people, quote unquote, paying it forward, companies starting like Gap, LVMH, and others rethinking their businesses to help in some way. But how do you help yourself? I mean, that's one of the great American things, as far as I'm concerned, is we're such a group of individuals. How can we help ourselves? You have to be thinking about where the needs are today and where they're going to be in the future. I think a lot of companies in hospitality are going to be rethinking staffing guidelines, the way in which they deliver their services. And I think that's an opportunity for a lot of young people, Anthony, in particular, the young folks, to really, I think, play a huge part in the renaissance of this industry. So I'm looking or counseling people. There's 80% of corporate executives got laid off or furloughed at Marriott. Some of these other major chains. What's the 20% that they kept? What are the roles that are most important that you can't do without?
Right.
That's what I would like to know. And where are they going to be hiring first when you come back in? I suspect technology, logistics, supply chain, and things of that nature are going to be absolutely paramount moving forward.
Well, there's 2 things you said. One, the young generation. Remember when we first met those 100 years ago? We were actually the young generation back then when you and I first met. And I know executives. One of my friends works for a major brand, and he was furloughed yesterday. But he was the corporate chef of a major brand. I won't say which one, but of a major brand. And he was on a plane, For the last 2 weeks, where everybody else was furloughed and everybody else was laid off, he was on a plane closing the buildings, literally going in and helping close the food and beverage operations of these buildings. And now he's been furloughed. So he literally was taking risks with his own health, being away from his family in this crisis. And as soon as he gets back to his office, he's furloughed. There's another executive in Vegas that's going around these big buildings that they run, and they're shutting or they're turning on the water every 7 days, and they have to go through. They have to touch every room every 7 days to make sure the water runs through, so the pipes don't have a problem when they do operate. So it's fascinating, or I don't know if fascinating is the right word, that this is what executives that are in charge of billion-dollar companies are doing. They're making sure the water's running, and they're making sure they're closing kitchens. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's certainly a word for it. Again, we're trying to reach out to people to tell them, again, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Don't know how long the tunnel is. We all have to prepare for the worst, hope for the best. But at the same time, what could you be doing in this downtime? I see a lot of people doing online education. Great time to go get further education, get a certificate in areas that might be truly of use, finding places that are actually in the restaurant industry doing delivery and so forth that you can assist. My son is a young chef working for Andrew Carmelini at the Dutch. He was laid off 2 weeks ago. And what is he doing? I told him, hey, head over to your building. You won't be able to pay rent. Maybe you could cook on behalf of other people living in the building and get a rent abatement from the landlords. And so he's doing that, and he's helping people who might otherwise not be able to get out or get a fresh home-cooked meal. So again, there's a lot of things that people could and are doing to make sure that we get through this thing the best we possibly can. Because there's going to be, at the same time, an explosion at the end of this. I really suspect a V-shaped recovery. I know I heard Barry Sternlicht talking about that, and I'm not talking about real estate values. I'm really talking about the amount of people traveling again is really what's going to change that direction. But if a V-shaped recovery occurs, this industry is going to be walloped again in terms of trying to find enough people to do all the work that's necessary.
Well, let's hope we have that particular problem out there. I know Marko Roca out there has his fingers crossed on that particular sentiment over there. But what I think is interesting is now is really a good time, since we do have more time in our lives. I'm not standing on line at the airport nearly as much anymore. So it's a good time maybe for some self-introspection and stuff like that, in ways perhaps that you could emotionally prepare yourself and then get that educational component to help figure out what you're going to do next. Maybe this is a good opportunity for people to truly figure out what they've always wanted to be. Any thoughts about that, Anthony?
And Keith, before you answer, Cornell is working with me to give a 25% discount
That's
for
awesome.
all their courses. So if you put in HOSP20, I don't make a dime from it. I asked them, I called them up right in the beginning of this, and I said, would you give a discount to anyone that's listening to our show or listening to our program? This guy said, absolutely. So tell all your friends, if you want to further your education, and we all know an Cornell certificate is very valuable. So you have 25% discount. All you have to put is the code is HOSP20.
I'm a Cornell alum, as you probably know, guys. I appreciate that they're doing that. We're also offering the ability for people to take our executive and line level assessments free of charge. Go to 2020assess.com. It's the 2020 skills profile of assessments. And we'll find a way to allow people to take those assessments. We'll offer a code and so forth so that they can do that. And that might be a way, Glenn, to find out, hey, where are some of my strengths and weaknesses? Where are some of the areas that I need to work on during this downtime? So again, I'll give you that, guys, I'll give you that information, and we'll get a special code where people can go in and take the assessment, get the results back to themselves. And hopefully we can, again, help people find out more about their interests, where their strengths and weaknesses lie.
So since this is Feel Good Friday, I know you and I, Keith, have had this conversation several times over our career. But can I tell people how I became the general manager of the Algonquin Hotel and how we kind
Please
of got to
do.
know each other a little bit better? Okay.
Please.
All right. First of all, I know I've asked this question before, but I don't remember if you responded with the right answer. Do you remember where we had breakfast when you interviewed me for the general manager job at the Algonquin?
Gosh, that I don't remember, Anthony. Yours
Okay.
is better than mine, if you can.
Well, it was the Marko Hotel. I'll
Okay.
never forget it because I always wanted to be the general manager of the Marko Hotel. You interviewed me, and then you interviewed me again, maybe, I don't know, 7 months later. And I don't know if you remember this. And I said, 7 months ago, I met with you. What happened? And you said, well, can I be honest? I said, of course, be honest. You were like 23 out of 27 people on the list. And we had a couple of fits and starts. We had a couple of problems. Some people didn't work out. And now we're down to you. And so we're re-interviewing you, and we're going to put you in front of the owners. And thank God the owners loved me, and the rest is history. And that job probably launched everything for me because that was a real turnaround. Do you remember that?
That part I do. I don't remember the breakfast. The Carlisle and the Mark were my typical places to meet and interview candidates, but I'm glad it did work out. You've certainly had a hell of a career, Anthony, and I'm in some ways I'm glad you're not really an operator anymore because you're a hell of an entertainer, and I've always enjoyed your stuff. I know my family watches Impossible all the time, so.
Well, I want to, it's really important for me to live in gratitude, and I'm grateful that you took a chance on me. I didn't have any food and beverage experience, any union experience, any Midtown experience. I just worked at Lucerne, had none of that experience. I don't care what number I was on the list, and that's really maybe a lesson for people to understand. Is that I was not your first candidate because I didn't have the most experience. I was not your first choice because maybe I didn't have I don't know. I don't know why I wasn't the first choice, but there's a lot of reasons why I probably wasn't. But I never gave up. You never gave up on me. I went in there, and when you told me that I was number 23 on the list, when I met with those owners, I wasn't expecting to get the job. I got the job before I walked in. I knew I had the job because when you said that to me, that to this day, that's one of the greatest motivations of my career. I was 23 out of 27 people on the list. Sounded like high school. I was number 650 out of 700 people in my high school class. I was like, I can't deal with that. Like that just doesn't work in my life. Like, so I walked in, I had that job before they offered it to me. And it was because maybe I had to work a little hard. Maybe it took me 7 months to get that interview, but you believed in me, and I appreciate it. And there's not a day that goes by that I'm not grateful for that. So thank you very much. It
perseverance, perseverance is a great lesson, and being prepared. I tell all the folks that go into interviews, be prepared. I don't spoon feed people because I don't think that's authentic, and you don't want to make a marriage that's not really made in the right way. But being, humble, being prepared, being ready when the opportunity comes and taking it, seizing it, those are really 99% of the situations I found myself in over my career. I wasn't valedictorian of my high school. I wasn't the first choice of the Cornell Hotel School. I wasn't first string coming out of Cornell football, but I made my way, and that's because I had the kinds of things you're talking about, perseverance, and really making sure that I did everything I could do to be the best I could.
Yeah, and there was no Hotel Impossible without that job. So you're indirectly responsible for putting this face on TV in 120 countries.
Yeah. I always like to.
It's my way. You got my address.
I always like to think of my high school years as I was in the top 1% of the bottom third. So that's how I was able to feel really good about myself. But I want to know, speaking in that kind of thing, yeah, sure, he was number 23 or so, but what was it about his skill set or persona or something that said, all right, this is the guy that I'm going to recommend, put my reputation on the line for?
He ran out of people.
Yeah, but he could have gone to number 24. Right?
Yeah, I really think at the end of the day, when we're trying to make matches, it's really about culture. You can probably tell from Anthony's moxie and New York sensibility. This was an independent New York historic hotel in the Algonquin. And I think at the end of the day, it was really about cultural fit, about just seeing eye to eye on how you were going to run the business, how you were going to approach customers, how you were going to help grow their business. And in many ways, that's really what makes or breaks someone's success, not their technical skill, because most people at this point have strong technical capabilities. It's really about, do they fit? Do they lead in the right way? Can they mesh with the players involved? Do they see the world in similar ways?
You know, when I went into that hotel, I remember people throwing all kinds of PR marketing things at me. And I said, I'm going to listen to the walls. I'm not going to listen to the people. I'm going to listen to the history. I'm going to read about the history. I remember the PR company asking me to get in front of all the media outlets and talk about the Algonquin. They were going to feed me talking points. And I was like, I'm not a talking points guy. I don't talk from talking points. I talk from the heart. So I'm going to learn. I'm going to read the books. There was a cookbook from Frank Case from 1907 that I read. There was a lot of history books. There was a documentary that won Best Oscar for documentary in 1988 that I watched. And then I became really the historian of the Algonquin. And I spoke on behalf of the Algonquin like I opened it in 1907. So the authenticity of myself being a New Yorker really helped in the sense of I wasn't going to take pointers on how to talk about the Algonquin. I was going to let the building tell me how it wanted to talk about the Algonquin.
That's a great lesson, Anthony. I grew up at the Waldorf when I came out of school, didn't make the pros in football. I had to get a job and wound up working, starting my career at the Waldorf. And, you know, if those walls could talk, right? And we were doing a massive renovation at the time, and we were peeling back, you know, layers of upon layers of everything from floor coverings to find real marble on the bottom of those, or marble on the walls under foam marble painting and so forth. But those histories are incredible, and they're really part of New York hospitality. And so I've learned a lot. In fact, I wound up doing tours of the Waldorf, giving tours to people who would come in and do 2 hours through the bowels of the hotel. It's just amazing, amazing stories that come out of the hotel business.
Yeah, and tell people about that famous hidden train underneath the Waldorf.
I love that.
Every president of the United States has stayed at the Waldorf back in the day. Penn Central Railroad came under the hotel, had a special car and door that it would stop at, and a special elevator that would take the president and his staff up to the presidential suite. It was probably one of the most secure spots in all of New York. So it was, again, very interesting to walk people through that. In fact, during the strike of, I think it was 86, 85, 86, that's how I got home. I went downstairs, down through that, down the railroad station to Grand Central, and up and out to go see my family at the time, because it's the only way I could get out of the hotel.
Without the union seeing you.
That's pretty cool. I understand that when it was originally built, it was really so FDR, they could sneak him in the wheelchair, because they didn't really want people to know he was wheelchair bound. So that was a good way around that. I had a tour once of the Waldorf, and what really struck me is like those boilers from 100+ years ago that are buried God knows how many stores underground. Seeing all of that old school infrastructure is amazing.
Yeah, B3, we used to call it. The bowels of that hotel are pretty incredible. In fact, a lot of people don't know that the hotel was built on shock absorbers, because they had to build over the Penn Central Railroad and had to go down all of that way, which I think Penn Central was like 5 stories below ground. So it's pretty incredible construction.
Who are the presidents that lived there, that actually lived there? I know there was 1 or 2 presidents that actually had their homes there.
That's a good question.
Was it Truman? I think it was Truman, maybe. But
yeah.
Talking about hotel history, real quick story. Again, it's Feel Good Friday, so we can kind of get off topic a little bit. Home Alone 2 was filmed at the Plaza when I worked there. I was the night manager and then the director of operations, front office. And it was the Home Alone 2 was there, and they were filming. And the current president that lives in the White House right now owned the building at the time. And he came up to me and he called me Tony. And he said, Tony, what's underneath the carpet? I said, I don't know. And Chris Columbus, who was the director of Home Alone 2, said, can we pull it up and see? I said, sure. So I called the maintenance guy. He comes over. We pulled up maybe a foot of the carpet. We scraped, as you know, Keith, you scrape and you find out what's underneath. And believe it or not, there was this beautiful terrazzo floor. So when you look at Home Alone 2 and you see him sliding into the elevator across the terrazzo floor, which is still there, we have not covered it since. I was a little bit part of that history because it was my job to pull up the carpet, get our team to make that perfect. And the reason they wanted to do that is because they were going to build a floor that was going to be very expensive for him to slide across. Instead, believe it or not, under all that carpet, all that glue over the years was this incredible original terrazzo floor that you see in Home Alone 2 today. And I'll tell you another secret. When Macaulay Culkin is checking in and that young lady's looking down at him and she's like, how can I help you? That wasn't Macaulay Culkin. That was the director, Chris Columbus. She was talking to him because Macaulay Culkin had to go upstairs to go to sleep because he was a kid at the time and he couldn't work past a certain amount of hours.
Yeah, there's so many great stories. The Waldorf, as I said, has so many of them that are similar. And again, I get back to topical issues here, is that history has been through a lot. I mean, it was built during the Great Depression, and we've been through so much together. And I just keep thinking we're going to get through this together, and it's how we go about doing that is so critically important. I know Marriott's going to survive. I know IHG and Hyatt and Hilton are going to survive. But most people outside this industry don't know that this is really a street corner business. And there's so many mom and pops out there that are in this industry. There's so many that own those Hiltons and Marriotts and so forth that are really your local street corner entrepreneur. And we have to make sure that we support those people. And I certainly hope our federal government with this program really helps the small business person, because that still is the backbone of this country and the backbone of our industry.
Now, and that's an interesting point because most people think Hilton, Marriott own these buildings. They got out of the real estate business, right after 2008, and we're getting out of it even before then. Right. And they're basically they're selling the name and the infrastructure, the systems, the reservation systems and the marketing systems. But like you said, the vast majority of hotels that you see Marriott or Hilton or whatever are owned by independent owners. Some own one, some own 30, some own more. But those are the people we have to bail out or not bail out, but help. And they said, well, why are we going to help those people? Because if you help those people, we all work. Housekeepers work, bellmen work, general managers work. So those hotels have to be successful. And I hate to see the bigger players in our industry going and eating up the little players that are trying to make a living. And if we don't get stimulus to those hoteliers quickly, that's going to happen. And that's just as much as a shame if they survive that way as if they went out of business totally, because some people will be in a position to eat those other hotels up. And we want to be able to, where everybody that put the blood, sweat, and tears over the years, they all survive.
We have to talk, and I encourage every owner to be talking to their senators. It is so important that they get that message. I know from some of the things I've heard that they don't really realize. They think by bailing out the big companies or supporting the big companies that it all trickles down, and it just isn't the case in our business. It's not like the airlines.
Right.
It's like the cruise lines. It's not even like the casinos, the hotel business in particular. All those other industries are clients of mine as well, but hotels in particular are very different that way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely right. Anthony, I think we need to wrap up with Mr. Kefgen over here, because we've got another guest waiting to come on our show. We're going to bring her on in just 1 second, but let's wrap this up. Anthony?
I think Keith is uniquely qualified to answer this question. Being a hotelier, going to the best school in the world, and doing what he's done and matching people together with businesses for so long, including my career. He's catapulted my career by getting me that job. What do you tell someone, a college senior in hospitality, coming into this? like, should I change careers? This is scary. What would you tell them?
I'd say absolutely not. I think this industry, again, is too important. It will survive. I'm, again, talking to a lot of young folks, including my son, and I'm saying three things. Be a realist, understand what you're into, understand the circumstances. Be a pragmatist. If you have to take a cut and pay, if you have to go back and do something that you didn't think you'd have to do it. And third, you got to be an optimist. Our business is built on optimism. Our business is built on fun, enjoyment, getting people together. The human condition is such that we'll all want to commune at some point when all this is done. So keep the faith. Make sure that you, again, those three things, keep those things in mind, and you will survive.
And no excuses. Everyone, there's a lot of reasons to have excuses right now. All of us, all three of us have reasons to have excuses. No excuses. You got to get through it. And in my opinion, we're doing a disservice to the greatest generation. We're doing a disservice to the people of the Depression. We're doing a disservice to people in the 1800s. We're doing a disservice to the people that built this country if we make excuses. It's our job. It's our turn. We got 10 great years of growth. It is our turn to change. It is our turn to survive. It is our turn to get to the next level.
Couldn't agree more.
Beautiful. Keith Kefgen, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll bring you back for another Feel Good Friday. But Anthony, I'm ready to feel good with the wonderful, incredible Kari Lachlan, straight from HGTV's Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Used to maybe have been on a little TV show that we all know and love around here, Hotel Impossible, but seems to be moving on to really cool pastures. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. How are you?
You know what's amazing? First of all, the reason I have a smile on my face because Kari knows she's one of my favorite human beings in the whole world. She's a designer on Hotel Impossible. What she's doing now, I cried when I found out she was on Extreme Hotel Makeover. Literally bawled like a 3-year-old. Called her up bawling. But that's not even what I'm excited about. Is we've done this show now for a week and a half. We've had literally dozens of guests on right now.
About.
Is there anybody with better? Wait,
she got cut out a little bit. Look at that. She's like totally frozen. I'm gonna remove her from the stream and put her right back in the stream. There she is. Boom.
There we are.
But what I was saying was, with all the guests that we had, did anybody have better lighting than Kari? Does anybody have a better setup? Does anybody look better? Like she looks like she can literally film this for Extreme Hotel Makeover right now.
Right now it looks like it's going to be more of a photo shoot for Extreme Hotel Makeover. But if nothing else, the lighting is phenomenal. But definitely best hat award goes to you, Kari Lachlan.
Well, thank you. This is this is twofold. Well, threefold. One, I was just outside because it's a nice day, so I have to protect with the sun. But we've actually been wearing fun hats indoors. It's been kind of our thing because we're fine with being indoors, but when it rains and you have a 5-year-old that's really rammy, you figure out how to be festive. So we've been wearing fun hats indoors, and also you don't have to wash your hair as much when you don't have to see people in person. I'm just being honest.
So you're a professional in so many areas, and I'm going to go back to how we know each other, and we're going to. But today's Feel Good Friday. So one of the things I want everybody to understand or everybody to know is give them your social media handle, where they can find you on social media, because your social media with your husband Sky and your son is absolutely inspiration. So right now, before I forget, tell everyone how they can find you on social media.
Yes, you can find me at Kari Lachlan. It's spelled like the movie, Carrie, and then CKLY.
And Kari, you are a designer, you are a dancer, you're a professional organizer, but what gets lost in all of that is you're an entrepreneur. And
yes,
and you're an entrepreneur. You're an Extreme Hotel Makeover, but you don't own Extreme Hotel Home Makeover. You're not making $1 billion from that. Mm-mm. You're an entrepreneur. So of all the entrepreneurs I know, you're one of my greatest inspirations because you do well really on everything. You're a spokesperson for Casper. You're a dancer. You've danced on Saturday Night Live. You've danced with Justin Timberlake and many others. Your husband's a professional dancer. You're a professional organizer. When you were on my show, or I should say our show, you organized some of our owners, specifically the one in Alaska. you were a designer on our show, and you made magic happen in 3 seconds with no support, no help. We talked about the first time you were on the set. I said, tell me about the first time, because I don't remember the first time you were on. You said, well, I quit the first time I was
Yes.
on, because you people are crazy.
Yeah.
So with all of that, and you can see my enthusiasm, my excitement for talking to you, talk about being an entrepreneur, and just tell me about that mindset.
Just in life, or right at this moment that we're facing?
Right at this moment. Right
Yeah.
at this
This
moment.
moment that we're facing. There's a lot of uncertainty. My business, especially, it's very interactive with people in people's homes. And right now that's our safe haven. So obviously I don't have a lot of business going on, but about when I started Extreme Makeover Home Edition, I did shift a lot of my things to virtual. So I've been doing a lot of virtual design. People call it e-design. And I've also been doing virtual staging for when people are selling their homes. I've been doing that now for about 6 months. So the great thing about that is I still have a few clients that are coming in that have had people that put their homes up on the market before this happened. So I'm actually able to, through pictures and videos, I'm able to give them a full report. However, nobody knows what the market's doing right now. So everybody's, kind of pulled their reins in tight. So I feel like I'm like everyone else that has a small business and is an entrepreneur. Like and large businesses too. We're just in this waiting game of seeing what's going to happen tomorrow, trying to keep the faith, obviously, looking at the silver lining, and just trying to take this time for what it is and not get too overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I think that is obviously the secret. We've been talking about that a lot. And if you want to hear how me and Kari worked together and how we met each other, go to our podcast, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, because we had Kari on just a few weeks ago, and you'll understand how we work together. But let's talk about first your dance career, and who you dance with, what you dance with, how you got into dance, and then I want to know the moment you found out about Extreme Home Makeover, and how was it to work with those crazy bunch of people?
Okay, so I've been like if you have children who are dancers, it's a very large passion. Like when somebody connects to dance, it's a huge passion. So I was a dancer by trade from the time I was 4 until I graduated high school. I was going to go to school for to become a history teacher. That was my thing. I wanted to actually become a sociology teacher eventually. And my dance teacher said, no, you need to go and do this part of your career first, because you only have your body for so long before it starts to break down. And so at 17 years old, I left home and became a professional dancer and had a good run of like almost 2 decades of dancing. And yes, I've danced with I've been blessed to be able to kind of tour the world by dancing. I think that's my favorite thing. A lot of people are like, oh, Justin Timberlake or Mariah Carey. I'm like, yeah, but I got to go to Egypt.
Right.
Like I went to Tonga because I was a dancer. Like I went to places as a 22-year-old that I don't know that I'll ever get back to. So for me, it was the traveling aspect that I love so much and meeting new people. And then I shifted and I turned down a few very large jobs and tours because I knew that I wanted to kind of start phase 2 of my life. And that was being a professional organizer. And then that turned into becoming a designer. And then I ended up on Hotel Impossible. And then I ended up on Extreme Makeover. Like,
but that's you're the standard for change. You're the standard for taking it as it comes. And you said words that I think are extraordinary. You have to talk yourself out of getting overwhelmed. And one of the reasons I want people to go to your Instagram, because on one moment you're helping market Extreme Home Makeover, the biggest show right now on television, while you're making dinner and while you're doing a craft with your son and gardening and hanging out with your husband, who's now obviously home as well. And you're doing it with a smile. You break it down even when you're doing your skincare, and you're not always glamorous. Sometimes you're just the way you walk up, and you do the same thing on Hotel Impossible. There's sometimes I know some designers, once we hit you with the camera, they're like, "Oh wait, I'm not ready yet," and it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, and you look like
3 o'clock in the morning.
But you look like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you work 18 hours a day. and not that you want a camera in front of your face and you didn't give a crap. You cared about
Yeah.
the work. You are probably one of the most authentic, genuine, lovely
Aw.
people I have ever met.
Thank you. That means the world to me. I think now's the time, especially for us, to be our authentic self. I think social media is such a great platform for us to be able to be connected to right now. But I also think it's time for everyone to let it go. You know, like it's the freedom to be exactly who you are right now. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to say, oh, they did this or they felt this way. Like we're kind of all in this together. So I say, be your authentic self, because then people, honestly, it's just about trust. You know, I think right now we need to trust in ourselves and one another. And the more authentic you are, nobody has to guess what you're going to get. Like you're going to get me at 3 o'clock in the morning, hands down. You're always going to get me at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I might do my hair or something, but you know, it's just being who we are right now, because we're all we have at this moment to keep ourselves calm and not completely spiral.
I just thinking about hair tips. Maybe you could offer up some, Anthony.
Yes, Mach 3 razor, shaving cream, a lot of hot water, go directly into the shower, and then Old Spice aftershave. Now, if you really want to see what you're made out of, you shave your head, okay, and then take Old Spice aftershave that's meant for your face, and you put it on your head. That's when you become a true man or a true woman. You put that on your head, then so every day when I do that, I'm like, it never gets easier. It never gets easier. So, Kari, I want to go back a little bit. I'm going to ask you 2 questions at the end of this.
Yes.
Glenn, please.
I do want to before we go on, I do want to say we don't have that much time with Kari today, but we did have an incredible podcast we did on our Checking In with Anthony and Glenn show. Be sure to check out that feed for a really long, in-depth interview where you hear all of that connective tissue that she condensed down into about 8 seconds over there. But how do you keep so smiley all the time, Kari? What's your secret there? Because you know you're dealing with stuff, but you can't tell.
My resting level of happiness is high, and I realize now, looking at my child who wakes up at like 6:30 and he's like, guess what, mommy? And I'm like, what? He's like, today's a new day. I'm like, it is. Like I have a high resting level of happiness, and I think that's probably a little DNA. And it's also, I think, through the trials and tribulations that you go through in life, you start to realize where things lay. So if you've been through a lot in your life and you've gone through some things and you've seen yourself come out of them on the other side, life becomes a little bit more joyful because you've done it. You know, you've seen it, you've done the work, and life is here to enjoy. So I try to always be a little chipper. I don't try. I'm naturally happy, like I am.
Yeah, and that's true. And I've seen her in some real stressful situation. That's true. So you went from this really big show, as I said on the podcast, to this Hotel Impossible's huge show, to this little show called Extreme Home Edition Makeover, whatever the hell you call it, HGTV. Apparently, it's a big show. I don't know.
I'm too busy watching Hotel Impossible all the time to know that there's anything else on television.
They have 1,000 designers that they have to go through to select Kari. So I know we're short on time, but I want people to understand that. I mean, how many people did they look at before Kari Lachlan, who is not the 18-year-old out of design school, 20-year-old out of design school, a person that has experience, a person that has a career, may have not been their first choice. I don't know, but you've gone through. I would imagine they went through 100,000 billion people before they get to you.
It was about a 4-month process of casting, and I mean, they said they went through thousands of people, and I was even told actually by the executive producer that like casting pushed me forward, and they were like, "We love her," and that I kept like being bumped, like they were like, and I would be taken off the table, and somebody would throw me back on the table.
Wow.
So he told me that. He was like, there were certain people that were like definites, and he's like, and you were kind of like, you would be taken off and replaced by somebody, and then somebody would throw you back on the table. So
right.
I went through it.
And your natural resting place of happiness got you the job. Your natural resting place of, I get it done, I'm prepared, I prepare calmly. I smile. I don't let you see me sweat. You have enough
Yes.
aggravation, so I'm not going to give you my aggravation. And that's what came through. So tell us a little bit about a day, because I know people want to know this.
I got a question. I got some questions too. So
Oh, yeah, go for
let's
it.
do. You want to?
Go ahead.
Anthony. All right. So they want to know what's the process like for how properties are chosen for a makeover, and people ask for help. How does that all work? And then maybe just coming from me, tell me a good story that you had.
Yes. So I can kind of mix them all together too with Anthony's questions as the day of. So for the family casting, they started casting about 6 months prior to this, and I'll get you the exact link, but I believe it's emhe.org, and that's where you can kind of go and submit a family that is nominated, because that's how we find our families. Somebody nominates our families. And then, I think what people need to understand too is that it is a process of, okay, now we have this family, but will this township work with us? Can we get, everything that we need to get from our tradespeople? Do we have builders within this county? So it's kind of the perfect puzzle piece of finding the right family who has the right story, and then not necessarily the right story, but has a story that resonates with what we think America needs, and then the builders and the townships, because you have to be pulling permits and getting things okayed overnight. So we need communities that are willing to work with us.
Hey, Kari, while you're thinking, it's emhe.tv. That's emhe.tv. Please continue.
Thank you. So every family is nominated. We don't go out and just, search for them. And then it's really about the community that stands behind them and is willing to support them, because with each episode, we have over 1,000 volunteers. So we need communities that are willing to come out.
Excellent. Great. You hear that, guys? You got to get out there and do your part as well. So what was a super moving story that you have that you didn't really expect to have that kind of emotion, but were kind of taken aback by something?
Oh my goodness, Glenn, that's hard. I mean, I feel like every episode was so emotional from the moment that you saw the family and the realization that they were chosen. You had happy tears. And then I think through the moment, like the bus moves in that split second, we did have we've had some military families and some firefighter families. And I think just because I was raised within those communities, there's something very special to me. We had a firefighter family who lost his wife while she was giving birth to two twins. God. And my husband and I had a very drastic story where I had to get 2 blood transfusions and was very critical after giving birth to our son. So that story hits home. Like when you hear him speaking, you're very grateful that you came out on the other end. But, we just gave a home to a veteran who goes into the streets of Los Angeles and gets other veterans off of the streets. So, I mean, there's grandmas that hug everyone and take care of the elderly. There are people that, there's a family that she already had 2 children of her own and adopted 3 children because they were deemed unadoptable by the township. So, I mean, it's like picking your favorite child. There's so many moments that I couldn't even imagine to pick one.
Right.
And having those stories is inspirational. But when I see the designers and the hosts together reacting to it, it's so pure of heart and natural. You're not saying, okay, we're going to move the bus and, oh, of course it's emotional. So you have to be dead not to be emotional. But it's like it happened to your family. It's like you're all melting. You're melting into each other. And that's why the casting of this show was so critical, because there's not an ounce of faking anything on that show, and it's just pure of heart, and that's why it's a successful show. And when is it on, by the way?
It is on Sundays on HGTV at 8 p.m. We bumped it up. It used to be 9, but we bumped it up to 8 after daylight savings time. So
I like it. Good prime time right there. All right. So a supplier, someone from our supplier friend community out there says, how do you become a vendor that could donate products?
That is a good one. That is another. I will have to get you the address. I can also put it in my LinkedIn, or they can direct message me. Cool. But we do have an entire team, because that is a really important aspect of the show, is that, the builders help us build the homes, the volunteers, the skilled tradesmen, but also our branded partners. Like, we cannot do the show without our branded partners, because I think the great thing about the show, and Anthony, another reason why I loved Hotel Impossible too, is that this is a design show that when you leave, everything stays. Like, everything stays. The family has not put any money in, and we're not going back in and removing furniture. So I think that that's a really huge aspect, that not only are they getting a home built for them with all of, bells and whistles and technology and everything's brand new, but everything inside of the home stays. And that's because of our branded partners.
So now I'm going to back up a little bit. You have a beautiful family, beautiful home. You're sought after. You're one of the most delightful people anybody can ever run into.
Beautiful taste in hats.
And I knew she'd wear a hat, and the lighting would be perfect. And but you're in the same situation as we are. The world is. And yes, you have a natural resting place of happiness. I understand that. But I would like you to get a little personal and tell me a moment where you had that in the last week that you were a little overwhelmed or a little scared or a little frightened. What did you do did you call somebody? Did you say a word to yourself? What was it that because we have children, right? We all have children right now, all three of them. And we're not really caring about ourselves. We're caring about, like, almost guilty of, like, I need to, like, my job is to protect you from all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so tell me a moment where you had a weakness that you overcame.
I think for my family, we are what we're now being coined as giggers. Like, we live in a gig mentality. So you look through your year and you kind of have everything lined up, and you're like, I know I have this, I have this, I have this. And my job often involves a lot of traveling, as does my husband. And we looked at each other the other day, and I was like, I have 4 things lined up, and he does as well, that were supposed to push us to the end of the year. And I was like, if those all get canceled and we live off of 1099s, and we don't necessarily have unemployment like other people, like, how do we do this? Like, how do we continue this? Like, I think, not to get emotional, but that's the scary part, is that you have this picture. And I think, 4 weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best year ever. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like, at what point do we have to call a bank and be like, can you defer our mortgage? Now, granted, we have saved money, and because we are giggers, so we get that. But you're having that moment, and your 5-year-old is just walking up to you like, hey, mommy, look, I just drew this picture. And you're like, oh, right. Like, he's dealing with the fact that he doesn't get to see his friends, and he's an only child. And I'm like, how do I get this little human to be around other little humans without getting each other sick? So, we snap out of it. We're grateful for where we are. We walk out back, we breathe the fresh air. We look at the trees that are surrounding our home. We look at each other, and we're grateful because we have one another, and we love each other and like each other. We have a good kid. And then you just pivot. You just keep pivoting, and you move on, and you find a friend who has an only child, and you take your phone and you say, this is the new realness right now. And you're going to FaceTime your friend, take mommy's phone, go play for an hour. And, like, for me, I try and stay above the spiral. The minute I feel myself spiraling, I look around and I find something amongst myself right there in that second that I'm grateful for. I can cook. I've got good food. I've got a husband who I consider my best friend. I've got a child who's not driving me crazy. And I have a home. And right now, like, those are the most important things in life. And that, to me, is the silver lining of all this. It's seeing people with their families, with their children, learning how to cook for the first time. It's those things that we were all moving too quickly to do before, we can do now. So I try and find a silver lining, and then I try and stop the spiral.
Well, I think you've done more for people right now in the last 5 minutes than we've done on the show since we started the show. And I know you've done a lot for me, and just what you said, because what you just said, you got teary-eyed and emotional. Everyone, Glenn's feeling that way. I'm feeling that way. Everyone listening is feeling that way. And that you were able to say it in such an articulate, beautiful, emotional way. and then say stay above the spiral. I mean, you just made my day because you just helped me. I'm a strong person trying to help other people, but I need to hear that. And I love you, and thank you for saying that and sharing that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for doing this and keeping us all connected. It's so important right now.
Yeah, it really is, and I really love that we're building this community. So before we let you go, why don't you tell us again how we can find you on Instagram and all of that kind of good stuff?
You can find me at Kari Lachlan, Kari like the movie, Carrie, and Lachlan like it's spelled, Locklyn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You want to say
a
picture?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least one of us will look good in that photograph.
You guys
Anthony,
look
right?
great. I was going to say your lighting and backgrounds are great.
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying over here. We are adapting to what's going on. Thank you so much for being here, Kari. Hopefully, we'll get to see you again.
And stay tuned, Kari, because we have another great guest coming on.
Who is here? Boom! Right now, another great guest.
What's going on, babies?
Mr. Brian Newman.
So excited.
Freaking awesome musician out there. I want to let everybody know before we even get into this that Anthony and I did a phenomenal podcast with this dude. We were about to publish it, and then boom, everything happened. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to get that up this weekend to pair it with the audio version of this conversation. But I got to say, man, I saw you at the Nomad for a run that you're doing over there. What a great show that was. I had so much fun. Brian Newman, After Dark at the Nomad restaurant. Wow.
Oh, Glenn, thanks for coming out, man. I had a real lot of fun with you guys at the Nomad that day, man. Thanks. I'm so glad you guys got to make it out. Stay the extra night,
Yeah.
You had to get it in. Yeah, man.
So Brian, without me screwing this up, how would you explain who you are and what you do? And I explain you as one of the hottest musicians out there, but I want to tell people about yourself.
I'm a musician from New York. I'm originally from Cleveland, but I've been here playing in New York since 2003 and running my own band for longer than that. And, I love being a band leader. I love being an entertainer, and I'm real lucky to get to do the things that we get to do,
And one of the reasons I asked you to be on the show, because we're friends and we're becoming close friends, and we just met maybe 6 months ago, is because you're in the hotel business. Even though you're a musician, you're in the hospitality business
for a long time, man. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And you were in the restaurant business. You were a bartender.
Totally.
And we just had Kari Lachlan on, who's the designer on Extreme Home Makeover, and she said she's a gig player. You're a gig player. I mean, that's how you make your living.
Yeah.
So how's this all affected you?
Well, I mean, we're not really doing anything, man. I mean, you see the trumpet here. I've been playing it, as much as I can, because as somebody wrote a good meme, like if you don't come out of this a better musician, then you're a suspect or something like that.
Right. Yeah, my kids are actually practicing now,
yeah,
which is phenomenal.
Right. You can't say that you don't have time anymore. You know what I mean? Just don't tell my wife that.
So, and your wife's also a performer, and your social media page is phenomenal, and I love what you guys are doing there. And why don't you plug that real quick before we forget? How do people find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find us at Brian Newman NY. On Twitter, Instagram is where I'm at most of the time. We do a lot of live things. You know what I mean? We're just trying to stay busy, do some fun content, and there's lots of time for content now. So it's like we just got to keep on doing it.
What was that show that I bought a ticket to the other day, and then I got busy and I couldn't make it? Talk about that.
Yeah, there's a website called Stage It, and thank God for my wonderful management team at Works Entertainment, because they're staying open during this and helping all us musicians that on their roster, get out there and do shows. So they hooked up this Stage It performance. So it's stageit.com, and I'm doing like 4 or 5 shows in the next couple weeks, and they're very me at the piano, me playing trumpet. It's very, the whole band's, we're trying to figure out how to get the whole band live so that we could stream it to everybody. But we just got to figure that out. But we're working on it.
That's definitely a tough part to figure out. But I think everybody needs to know what's your vibe, what's your groove, what kind of music do you like to play? Because right now they have no idea.
Yeah, man, we play a lot of old school jazz, a lot of traditional American music is what I call it. I don't really, the word jazz doesn't really sit so well with me, but I love the way that I just love American music. I love like Louis Armstrong, but I also love Thin Lizzy. I love Sting. I love, the Police, like all these great bands that, in classic rock, Iron Maiden,
Right.
So we have all these influences, but what it really translates into is, when we play these songs from the American songbook and this great American music, we can bring people into it from all ages. We don't have to change the content of our music. We obviously present it in our own way, but we try to make it accessible to everyone without changing the content. So
right. For me, the moment that I really loved was when you took some like modern songs. You mentioned like Every Breath You Take by the Police, for example, right?
Yeah.
Totally made it feel as if it was of the American songbook era and style, but it still retained what I really loved about what the Police did with it. So I love that kind of that vibe and making not just doing the old school songs, but doing those newer ones and that kind of flavor as well.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. It's an honor to get to play. Like I said before, it's an honor to get to play these songs. And a lot of those songs that I'm mentioning about, like we do a Nirvana song called Lounge Act, and that's 30 years old. So these songs are becoming the new standard, and and of my influences for what I grew up listening to.
Thanks for pointing out how old I'm getting. I think Every Breath You Take was like 1982.
And the reason I mentioned that you're in the hospitality business is because you play at the Rose Room at Gramercy Park, and you play at the Nomad in Vegas. And I knew you were going to play other, I don't know if I can say, but you had other venues you were going to play in hotel business. And how we met was I was doing a speaking gig in Vegas, and everybody knows I love playing poker. And they said, hey, Brian Newman is performing with Lady Gaga. And after she does the show with Lady Gaga and Park MGM, he's starting tonight his own show, his own residency at the Nomad. And we'd like to put you in the front row, and we want to VIP you and give you this experience. And I'm a cabaret guy, and I'm a music guy, and I live a hotel guy. So the room at the Nomad is beautiful. And I was like, when I ran the Oak Room, I was like, it reminded me of the Oak Room. I said, okay, I'll do it. But to be honest with you, as I said on our podcast, I wasn't that excited because I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what to experience. Yeah. And I was missing the poker game, but the Park MGM and Nomad was hooking me up, comp and everything. I was like, I got to take the ticket.
Wait, they put you in the front row? I had to sit in the kitchen. I had to listen to it on the radio.
Yeah, but Glenn, he was at the first one. It was more popular then,
So what was amazing was, like, I have some notoriety, and I never use my notoriety. I don't even care about it half the time. But I was sitting in the front row, and I was like, I love this guy. I want to talk to this guy. His music's amazing. I'm literally so excited. I feel you made me feel something I haven't felt in years. I was like, I wonder if he recognizes me, because I really want to talk to him after. And if he doesn't recognize me, he may not give me the time of day. And from this stage, you looked at me, gave me the thumbs up, and said, hey, man, love your show. And you and I became instant friends. And then I learned you lived in Brooklyn, and I live 10 minutes from you. So now me and you are hanging out, baby.
Yeah, exactly, man. Going around. I miss the Rondazzo's runs, man. We gotta get this shit over with. I
feel like I should go grab my Brooklyn sweatshirt so I can represent as well. My Smithtown sweatshirt is not as impressive, by the way. Nobody cares about that one.
So Brian, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
They just did a new promotion at Vegas called What Happens in Vegas Only Happens in Vegas. You're one of the faces of the new commercial.
Yeah.
You have a residency at the Nomad.
Yeah.
You and Lady Gaga play in the residency at Park MGM. Your career is really flourishing. You just bought a house in Brooklyn. You have a beautiful baby, a beautiful wife who also has a flourishing career. And all of a sudden, we're like, hey, go sit in your garage and hang out and tinker with your vintage car. How have you been handling all this?
I've been working on the car a lot, spending time with my wife and my daughter as much as possible. You know what I mean? And just doing school with her and trying to teach her other things like music and piano and trumpet, just trying to stay busy, man, trying to stay sane. I've been going on late night drives, Anthony, we were talking about. I've been going out in the old Mercury down to Rockaway Beach and just cruising around and not getting out of the car,
Yeah, we're going to do this weekend, hopefully cruise by about 12 o'clock at night, stay 15 feet away from me, and we'll walk down to the beach 50 feet away from each other.
And I'm going to guess, I don't have the ESP, but probably the hardest part of this isolation for you is you can't get a new tattoo.
No, I can't get any tattoos. There's no, even they're closed. You know what I mean? You know? Yeah, totally. Glenn's talking about I'm covered in here. I'll just want to just take this off. Look, I even got my Vegas shirt on. Downtown tattoo. Love those guys. Shout out to Downtown Tattoo. If you're in Vegas, go get a tattoo from them as soon as possible.
So what's been the greatest thing about having a gig in Vegas, a gig in New York, having residencies? Like, what is that about? I remember what you said to me personally, and I just want to see if you'll say the thing publicly. Like, what does that feel like?
Man, well, I've always tried to pride myself on having a steady gig somewhere. Not only does that increase your visibility, but every time you see someone, they ask you what's going on. You say, hey, every Tuesday, Thursday, we're at the Rose Bar. So I started doing that at a young age, maybe 13 or 14. And I just kept playing and, kept on doing it,
But you also worked really hard as a bartender down in New York City as you were doing gigs and as you were bartending. Yeah. I mean, you are from the service industry. And I'll just say something. When we were going, you got me tickets to see Cher a couple of weeks ago, and you and I were sitting together at Cher. And I remember, again, a lot of people think I'm very social. I'm really not. You're sitting at the bar waiting for me with your band, and every single person behind that bar and everybody employee walking past knows you by name, knows everything about your family. You know them, you know about their family. I'm sitting there just waving and maybe taking a couple pictures with people, but you really knew people. You really do come from that service mentality.
You know what? I say it all the time, but I'm on stage. I'm just a glorified bartender. In my years in the hospitality industry, as you guys know, really teaches you to deal with every kind of person, and you got to be nice at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, even if they're the most wrong person in the whole world, you got to make them feel better when they leave that restaurant or that club, or that hotel, You
know what stands out to me is I had a friend New Year's Eve at the Nomad watching you and your band, and your friend Lady Gaga came on and did 2 or 3 hours with you, and my friend texted me, said, this may be the best night of my life. Man. Seeing the way you perform and the way you guys go about your show, and I literally could have jumped on a plane. I would have come to see you. And then all of a sudden you're back in Brooklyn, you're in your garage, you're with your door, you're in the kitchen. You were just lighting up. You probably literally at midnight on New Year's Eve, you probably had the coolest gig in the entire world. And then 12 hours later, you're back in Brooklyn just being Brian.
Yeah, I mean, but I am that guy, really, and like we were saying before about the people, knowing the people's names, that comes from my heart, and that really means a lot to me to be able to connect with people. So being back in Brooklyn, it definitely sucks, man. I'm not depressed, but I'm not excited, especially when, I've worked my whole life to get to this point, and I know I have a lot more work to go, but it feels like counterclimactic, or it's like you get to that point in the story where we're supposed to be back in Vegas, and we had a bunch of other shows, man. Lots of gigs canceled, man. So it's just now we just gotta wait, man. We just gotta wait and get back into it. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, because listen, we're all
doing the same thing.
Yeah, we all got to do our part, and I'm not the only musician that's lost all of his work.
No, right? Anthony and I had the same kind of experience with all of our speaking gigs, for example.
Totally.
So we've been all through this together, but we're keeping it positive today.
Exactly,
so,
baby.
What is your regimen out there to keep smiling through all of these times?
Besides Sambuca and coffee.
Well, yes. No, sure, just Sambuca and coffee.
I've been working, like I said, working on my Mercury a lot. There it is back there, you guys. Can you see it?
Nice.
1951. Wow. So I've been coming up with I've been redoing the interior and that. I've been playing a lot of this trumpet. Just trying to just get up. My daughter does Taekwondo, so sometimes I do that with her. She does her dance class. Sometimes we'll do that with her too, just for fun. You know what I mean? And get our bodies moving. My wife, she's doing a go-go aerobics class today, that was a popular thing. She used to do that a lot. So it's been great. She's been getting thousands of people coming to watch her go-go arobics and doing that. And it really gets you moving. It's a workout. And so we've been trying to do as much as we can, making content. We've been we did a thing of All in the Family. Changed the lyrics up and, singing at the house at the piano. And we're just trying to stay sane, eating good food.
I mean, I'm impressed, but when you redo the Jeffersons theme, then I want to hear that one. All right.
Can you do me a favor? What's really hot, I think, on TikTok is when the man and the woman change outfits. Like you start out in one outfit, and I want to see you and your wife do that. But I want you to be one of her stage outfits.
I got to download TikTok. I haven't gotten into that yet. I was, well, I got to see what that's all about.
That's because you're older than 13. But,
yeah, I'm gonna call my nephews and see if they can sign me up.
Yeah, for some reason, this is making me think. I just got to throw this out, guys. I watched last night a documentary on Netflix on ZZ Top. You got to catch that documentary. That was a badass documentary. God, it's on my mind because we're talking about musicians here today. Anthony, when do we ask him to play something for us?
Well, in 1 second after he answers this question, if you're up to playing anything you want, that would be great. But I want to ask you a question because right now, like you're a gig worker, Kari's a gig worker. In some aspects, we're gig workers, and now the gigs are going away. So musicians are being told, 13-year-old musician, 12-year-old musician. Like I remember you telling me a story. You were in the high school where your teacher said you're never going to be a great musician. You asked your parents to take you to a different school that knew they would support you. That happened. They supported you, and here you are, just having an epic career.
Alone in my garage. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No. So, what do you tell that parent that's telling their child that wants to be an actor, who my daughter wants to be an actress or a singer or a dancer or a theater major? Listen, kids. You got to get that government job. You got to be that bus driver, that teacher, or you need security. Look what just happened. So yes, that's great that you want to do that, but things have changed now. You got to go and get a real steady job. So, because right now the only people who are working are people that are either working for the government, or you went somewhere, or are you? Can you guys still see me?
We lost you.
We don't see you, but for some reason,
up
there.
So. What do you tell that parent to say, no, man, it's going to be okay? Or maybe you say, no, this sucks. Go get a steady job. I mean, speak to that. I think that's really important right now.
I mean, they're so young. I think this is going to be over and they're going to be able to do it. But, I would say that, that they have to let them know how much hard work is involved. I moved to New York, and for 7-8 years, I didn't play music full time. You know what I mean? And then even when I did start, I was making like $300 a week playing music. So I always had to have another job for a long time in New York. So I just would, let them know if they want to do it, you can do anything, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of hard days, but it's worth it. Like you said, midnight at New Year's Eve, coolest gig ever. I couldn't have been happier, and I couldn't have been more honored to be there. It's just like it's a culmination of years and hard work. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. And I also listened to Eliminator today, ZZ Top, on vinyl. I love that. 32 Ford on there.
The car reminded me of that. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, before, if you would be so privileged to hear you play something, but if you notice something, Glenn, in the same vein and emotion and heart as Kari and Glenn, and Brian, they both have the same temperament in the sense of I'm grateful. Brian lives in gratefulness. He walked into the Park MGM, and all the security people knew who he was. We sat in the VIP area, and like he owned the place. And and the next day, like I said, he's back in Brooklyn. Right. But he was the most humble person. I know some people I won't mention now that I met before their careers were taken off. And people know their names, and they're not as nice as they were before people knew their names. And if you notice, the two people on the show today that I asked to come on, they're the people that go to the same school I go to. Never get too high because, going low, it hurts a lot further.
Plus, you never know who's there on the way down. They're going to be there on the way up. They're going to be there on the way down. You never know.
Right. And I think coming up the way you came up, and the way Kari came up, and the way A came up, and the way Glenn came up, is we're used to adversity.
Yeah.
Right. And so we don't speak fake news. I do want to say security only knew him because they escorted him out of the building so many times, totally. Right?
Get that wheelchair service back to the room.
Yeah.
Bell card service. No, it's not the wheelchair. It's when you see like at 2:00 in the morning after I do my gig and after I play poker, I literally saw this young lady throwing up on a bell cart as her friends are half drunk, carrying her with the bell cart up to the room. I was like, I was like, that was a Vegas wedding. It was so profound and so like insane. I didn't even take a picture of it. I was like, no, I just want this for myself. I don't even want to. I don't even want to embarrass these people. I just want this for myself.
Hey, that's Vegas,
so
and that was at 9 a.m. Monday morning.
Yeah, exactly. After the poker table all night. Oh my God, that's so funny, man.
So Brian, are we gonna get you to play something? Or
yeah, sure, man. I'll play something here. This is a little Charlie Parker tune. I put a mute in case it doesn't pick it out.
I'm so excited.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, guys. That was improv.
So let me ask you: when you play music, how are your neighbors handling it? When you're in the garage, do they come around, or how are they handling it?
Frankly, I don't really care. Nobody really says anything. I mean, look at the car. Look at me. You think they're going to say anything? They better not.
They're just going to be so confused about what decade they're in.
Not say anything. No, I'm kidding. But no, we got great neighbors over here. It's a great neighborhood over here in Brooklyn. So we're safe, you know?
Yeah, and I won't give up where you live, but you live in a very different neighborhood than that car, your tattoos, and you being what you do for a living.
That is true. I get a lot of this. I get a lot. Sometimes they cross the street. You know, I don't know.
Well, you know what? I always say about the Algonquin Hotel. The Algonquin was cool before cool was invented. Brian Newman was cool before cool was invented.
Oh man,
your whole aura is just real, man, and you don't try to be something, you just are. And the reason you're successful, and the reason you'll come out of this, and the reason you have a beautiful family, and you have the things you have, and you'll have the things you want, is because, dude, you are the truest person, and you're becoming a good friend of mine. And I just hope I see you soon. And 10 o'clock at night, you need something. I'm 10 minutes away. I'm coming. I'll have my mask and gloves on, and I'll kill whoever you need me to kill for you.
Same here, man. Same here. Thank you. Thanks for saying all that nice stuff, man. I just feel like a dude from Cleveland, and lucky to be doing what we're doing, and happy to be doing it. And like you said before, about just like staying humble, and how you guys are like that, and the last guest was like that, and I think 99% of like the people that I know that are where I want to be, you know what I mean, are like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think of the people that I've been in contact with, like Lady Gaga, Stevie Wonder, you know what I mean? All these kind of great artists, they're a certain way. Tony Bennett, you know what I mean? They're a certain way, and that humbleness has taken them to where they are. And that's where the longevity comes from. That's where everything comes from, is being a real person. There's no, assholes, it's just not, there's no reason to be an asshole. You know what I mean?
And I'm going to tell a hotel story real quick. You mentioned Stevie Wonder. I don't know if I ever told you the story, but Stevie Wonder came into Plaza Hotel when I was night manager, and Brian LaRota, who's his manager, brought him in. I've seen him many times, and Brian says, "Hey, Anthony, good to see you." And he goes, Stevie Wonder Mr. Wonder would like to have dinner. And I said, and he knew everything was closed. And he goes, "Is there anything you can do?" So I went to the Oak Room, closed the door. The waiters and bartenders did not want to stay. I may have used a couple of Brooklyn words. They decided to stay. I'm not sure if I did. And I opened up the door. I went to get Mr. Wonder and Mr. LaRota. I sat them down. I'll never forget this as long as I live. Wow. It's probably my favorite story. It was maybe a year into my career, and it's still my favorite story.
Yeah.
He finishes dinner. Brian LaRota comes over to me. He goes, "Tony, Mr. Wonder would like to talk to you." I go over there. Mr. Wonder says to me, "Tony, take my arm." I take his arm. He goes, "Bring me to the piano." Sits me down at the piano. God is my witness. Plays me a song called Mr. and Mrs. Little One that has never been recorded. That was from his personal stash, and played 3 or 4 songs to me, just to thank me for keeping open the restaurant.
See,
That is what you're talking about.
Yeah, because you don't expect anything. You got to just be yourself. You know, you don't expect be nice to everybody, and you know that everything else happens after that. You know.
So you got that right. The more positive energy you put out in the world, the more you get back. And we could all do it, and we could all do it together. Why? Because we are #hospitality strong, and we're all going to survive this sort of thing together. Brian, before we wrap up, I know everyone can find you at briannewman.com. That's briannewman.com. What about seeing stuff that you're doing while they're stuck at home, and then all of that kind of good stuff, so they can connect with you, get to know you, and get to know your music more?
Yeah, totally. Just go to my website, briannewman.com, my Instagram page that has a lot of links on it, and there's lots of great content on there already, and a fun content, you know what I mean? And just get on there, you know?
Yeah, Brian Newman music on YouTube. But if you go to that briannewman.com, you can find that link and all the other links that you need to get you into the world of Brian Newman. And man, go check out Brian Newman after dark when he gets back to Las Vegas.
Yes.
Look, it was worth for me staying up past my bedtime to go see that show because, dang, that was so much fun.
Glenn, I remember the smile on your face.
You kicked ass, man. You are so freaking talented. I really loved it, and it just brought me so much joy and delight. Even though I was stuck in the kitchen, but that's only because you were you're so successful at what you're doing.
Oh man,
so one of the things that you said about hard work, and I want people to understand something. One of the reasons that I just attracted to your energy in a really strong way is, and I think Kari has it as well, is tenaciousness. You're one tenacious MF. You just work, man. You are a hard worker. You just work and you work and you work. And that's what's going to bring us through this is the work.
Yeah,
it's not that we have to have hope and we have to have determination, but it's tenaciousness. Yeah. It's the work. It's the work. And I think that was the greatest thing you said. You said many great things, is that if you're not a better musician coming out of this, then you're gonna be suspect.
Yeah,
and I think that's true to anybody. I think totally. That's true for everyone. We know Glenn will come out of this probably mediocre at best, but we can.
But my napping skills are gonna go through the roof, Anthony.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, man, that's funny, man. That's funny. That's funny.
So what I'm gonna do, Brian, is I'm gonna probably drive by your garage this week. I'll text you before I come, and I'll just wave to you. I won't get out of the car. I'll just wave to you.
That sounds good. I'll put my mask on too.
All right, brother.
Let's wrap this show up for today. I want to thank everybody for being here on Feel Good Friday. On Monday, we're doing all the data because that's good, fun stuff. And lots of great interviews throughout the week, including the chairwoman of AHOA, the EVP of Smash Hotels, the CFO of Pebblebrook, Ray Martz. We got Chris Green coming back a couple of times. We got a vendor panel set for next week with Samsung and some other great companies, and lots of fun stuff that you're not going to want to miss, including some more celebrity type personalities next Friday. So thanks for joining us on our Feel Good Friday show. For Brian, Anthony, and myself, Glenn, we'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.
All right, boys. I love you, boys. I'll see you soon.
Brian.
All right?
Love
you guys.
Thank you, brother.
I'll see you.